Hey guys, welcome back to the Golf Podcast. This is episode number 298. And I think, Mike, this is probably a great time. Right now, it's the end of November. Really, the season for 2019 is really winding down. So why not? Let's rewind. We're going to go back when 2019 first kicked off. I think it was the first show in January. We laid out some of our goals. We were inspired by what we see some of the guys on tour doing, like Justin Thomas and some of these other guys, where they are writing out their goals for the season and then kind of going back and seeing how they performed against those goals at the end of the year. So taking a play out of that playbook, we did the same. We talked about some goals in the Facebook group. We had some of you listeners out there put your goals in the Facebook group, which I think this is a fun exercise. We'll probably do this again in 2020, but it'll be good. We're going to look back. There were some goals we hit, some goals we fell short. I don't think I ever expected to hit all of them. There's always that room for growth, but as long as we show that trend of getting better, Mike, I think that's where it really matters.
Yeah, makes sense. And if you missed that episode, it's 252, golficity.com/episode 252. So pause this episode here, go back, listen to that one, and then come back and see if we hit these goals.
Yeah, and if for any reason you can't get that episode on iTunes or wherever, it's always available in the Golficity app, which is free to download and check that out. I also want to talk about today's round. Yep. Because we got out there. Like I said, it's late November. We're recording this on November 20th. As we keep saying, we are going to play as long as we can until there's snow on the golf course and they won't let us out there. We're going to play. We got a chance to play at Ballyoan, which is always a favorite of ours. But we also love Crystal Springs for the reason that they do stay open. There's a lot of courses now that are starting to close or they're putting in temporary greens. But Crystal will stay open, and they told us we can play as long as there's no snow on the ground.
Yeah, that's what I love about that course. And hey, let me ask you a question. If you could think back on 2019, speaking of 2019, do you remember what our hottest and coldest rounds were?
Just throughout this year, I'm trying to think. I remember when speaking of.
Do you remember a place where we were just dying of heat? Was it?
Well, speaking of Crystal Springs, I remember it was definitely a hot day when we played the Ironman of golf.
Yes, I was going to say Ironman. It was pretty hot out. It was 90s.
It was definitely 90s. Coldest, I mean, might have been today. Oh no. I know what coldest was because it still technically fell in this year. It was when we were that round we played was also at Crystal when we were prepping for YouTube Golf Day. When we announced that we were going to YouTube Golf Day, because that was a day I remember literally saying, Mike, I need a minute because my hands, I couldn't feel them. I couldn't use them.
That was our coldest round ever. Yes. It was in the 20s. I think it was like February or March. Again, Crystal, open.
Yep.
Of course.
And that came from, I remember flying the drone where you have to like have your hands just out on the controls and just standing in the wind for like 10 minutes. And then like all of a sudden I couldn't feel my hands anymore.
I remember that. That was a rough flight.
Today though, I used those new winter gloves, those FootJoy winter gloves.
Yeah, how about those things? I liked them.
You know, it's a different feel gripping a golf club with winter gloves.
Definitely.
However, they were warm like I didn't have to think about my hands. Other times, I would rather have that and have a little bit more of a thicker glove on than have hands that I can't feel and be freezing.
Yeah.
But in a weird way, I played well the first couple holes, even with them on. Eventually it warmed up enough to take them off. But in a weird way, I felt like I played better because something about just how it changed my grip, it just kind of forced me to swing a little bit more controlled and slower. I don't know. Maybe it was a mental thing. But it did help in some strange way.
You know what? I just liked it. I did not feel cold at all in my hands. And that's the one, even with golf gloves on, even the rain gloves, they don't hold out the cold that well.
Yeah.
They're great for the rain, but these things were amazing. It was my first time using them. And I like you said, I did not really lose a lot of feel with them around the greens. I even putted with them on.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I think my only problem was that it was hard to use the phone. I had to take them off.
It was hard to use the phone. We had to take them off. That's right.
But I think the more I play, the more I realize it's like, with like layering up, like you can, your body can stay warm. It's fine. You can play. It's really just got to find a way to keep your hands, feet, and face warm.
That's it.
Because that's the extremities. But I've got a system now. It's down. I wear 2 pairs of socks. I wear like a scarf or something, and I'm feeling good. And I'm
isn't that just like obvious life? Keep your feet warm.
You would think,
like
right?
Hunting, hiking,
anything outdoors. That's the first thing outdoors. But to keep. But
we don't normally think about the double socks if we want, or if we want to do any extra layers or layer up. Like we layer up pretty nice today, and the cool thing about that was, what was it today? 37.
It was 37. It said felt like 30. I think it
That
felt
was it.
much
Wind chill.
lower than that because wind chill, talk about wind. We had the breeze was blowing today. But
Cloud cover, at least the first 5 holes, so there was not an ounce of heat coming through. It was just cold.
Right.
It was cold.
But I'll tell you what, look, we're going to dive in a couple weeks. We've got a topic, I should say, planned where we're going to talk about some tips for playing winter golf. I personally recently had watched a video by our friends Piers and Andy, Me and My Golf. They did 5 tips for playing winter golf, and I thought they were all really great tips. I took them to heart. I used them while I was out there, and it really did help. Some were strategy plays. Other ones were just different things with your setup and things like that. But I in a way, like I'm the type of guy, I always like the heat. Like I'm never going to complain about it being too hot. I'll more quickly complain about it being too cold. But that said, I don't super mind winter golf because there's a couple things to it. First of all, the golf courses get real quiet. We got to get out there and we had the course to ourselves. A weekday with it this cold, there was I think it was one other golfer we saw out there. The rates tend to be cheaper because it's the off season. And I tell you what, like I said, as long as you're ready for it and dressed properly, maybe bring a warm snack out there with you, you're good to go. So I don't mind winter golf. I wouldn't want to play too many months of it, but I can get through it. That's for sure.
You could get through it. That's a good phrase. We got through it today. I mean, it wasn't ideal conditions. I mean, nobody wants to play 37 wind chill, on a links course with no trees and coverage.
Yeah.
But that sun did come out around the 7th hole. You and I were going low, and we almost had Golficity's first hole-in-one today. Dude, I love this story. And I'm I feel bad for you. I feel happy for you. I don't know what to feel. Well, I just don't know what to feel.
This was great. First of all, give everybody out there a quick kind of backdrop. When we're out there and when we're playing and filming for shooting a vlog or something like that, in an ideal situation, what we like to do, we have a specific camera that we like to throw on the green. It's a very wide angle. It kind of catches multiple directions just in case, because we don't know where the ball is going to land. But we like to be able to put that out there. Now, we film all different ways. There are some times we're out there and the course is incredibly busy and we don't have the luxury of running around and setting up cameras. We just kind of have to shoot on the fly is what we say. However, if we've got the time, what we like to do is drive up to a par 3, put the camera on the green, and then drive back and hit our shots just in case. We always say just in case. Well, you're talking
which we did the previous 2 holes,
right? Which we did
2 par 3s, yeah,
right. And now you're talking about 2 guys who've never had a hole in one, but we're still I guess optimistic enough that we're just in case we want to make sure we catch it on film. And we've had some good stuff out of it. We played Packanack just last week. And you had this a dart that we caught on film by doing that. You were put it to 3
It was
feet.
similar conditions. It was similar distance to yours today that you're about to talk about. The similar wind whipping, cold.
Yep. Cold.
But yours was a lot closer.
And you put it in tight. But this is the crazy part about it. So we step up and this is the backstory. We step up to the tee and we're let's not worry. We had, as you said, we had done it the 2 previous holes and both of us were we were nowhere close. I mean, we were on the green, maybe the fringe, whatever, but nothing dramatic that's going to show on video and be something that's entertaining. So we're all right, 160 yards, pin is pushed all the way to the back of the green. It's already a tough par 3 and and we're thinking the wind is up. The chance of us putting this thing close enough to matter. And I think there's also a certain degree of we were getting a little bit lazy by that time. It was the 11th hole or something. So we're don't worry about it. We're not going to drive up there and put the camera on the green. So you go first. I don't remember where your ball ended up.
Front right green. I had a long putt up the hill.
Right. But what I do remember out of that was that, just kind of all day, but trying to gauge distances with the wind.
Yep.
And then just seeing that you came up short with club. I think
I even said to you, go 7 iron or something.
I clubbed up. So it was normally probably an 8 iron shot. I hit the 7 iron. And also you got to understand it's winter golf. It's incredibly soft. So one of the tips that was a great tip, going back to the guys from Me and My Golf, where they had said, you're not going to get a lot of rollout on the greens. So whereas you would more in the warmer months, maybe landed a little bit short and let it roll a little bit, especially I was using that tip on chip shots. I was trying to carry my chip shots almost all the way to the flag because there was very little rollout. I'm all right, I'm going to play the back number because we know this ball's not going to go anywhere once it lands. So hit it. It looks great. I think you shouted out, Mike, we might have our first hole in one, right? While it was in the air.
Shouted it like at the point of contact, like 5 feet into the air. I just knew this thing was going to be good.
It was such, not to pat myself on the back. I was
pat yourself for this.
This was
one of your greatest golf shots of your life.
It was a pretty shot. It was like this little baby fade, just cutting into the wind, and it just, it got up there nice, 7-9. Which, by the way, that the T200s, they feel amazing. That was my new T200. Today was the first time I ever hit the T200 9-iron because I only have 2 rounds under my belt. I hadn't hit the 9 yet.
Right.
So the thing was like fresh. But anyway, hit this thing and it's going like it's tracking directly at the pin, just tracking at it. And it hits and we see it hit. It's almost like when you throw one of those Velcro balls onto that, remember those old Velcro targets where it just sticks and stops, like exactly where it was. And it sticks and stops and it's right in line with the flag. And we're like, that looks good. But it looked like, those times when it's like maybe 3 feet short, but it's in line with the flag. So it looks closer than it is. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we drive up and we start to think, oh my God, it's looking better and better and better. Anyway, long story short, this thing just beyond the pin. So it must have flown just over the hole. The ball itself, we measured it. It's 6 inches. It was the size of my cell phone. Came to rest 6 inches from the hole. And there was the pitch mark where it landed was 8 inches. So it just hit
took
hard
a 2-inch
and just
spin back.
Yeah, like a quick pop back out of its little, plug mark, and then it was just sitting there. And God, it would have looked great if we had a camera on that green.
I know. We were kicking ourselves.
At least, though, there are countless times when we can say we've hit great shots that weren't on camera at all. At least we were running the camera on the tee box.
We had the tee box, and we had the camera running, driving up to the green. Just jumping out of the cart with it rolling, walking up to where it landed. I mean, everything is right there to document the great story.
Yeah.
But we just hope the story was just 6 inches a little better.
Yeah, really, I mean, it would have been something. And look, I think prior to that, I've been playing golf now for 20 something years. Prior to that, I think the closest I've ever come to a hole in one is probably a foot. Came actually close earlier this year when we were playing the Punch Bowl at what was that? Watchung, right?
That's right.
Watchung, and we've got that on film, and it actually in that case missed it, but it was rolling. It came to rest like 6 feet from. We saw it roll on the camera right past the pin. It just, I mean, it was just a matter of if it just being another 2 inches over, it would have been in the cup. But nothing like this, where it was literally, it just came to rest 6 inches from it. And I posted it on my Instagram story, and people were sending me funny messages the rest of the afternoon, just saying like, oh my God, like, no, like, you know what I mean? Because it's like one of those things, like a love-hate, where it's like you're just so happy with an incredible shot, but also like literally you don't get many chances like that. There's a lot of ways that could have ended up in the cup, There's
a lot of ways. I mean, we're not even going to list them because there's so many what ifs.
Yeah.
But it was a great shot.
Now, on the other side of luck was your luck losing your wedge. And
this is like my worst nightmare.
It's your favorite wedge too. It's the one Aaron Dill did for you.
Yeah, it's the one that the man himself, he stamped it not too long ago. And I don't know, dude, I was freaking out that thing was gone, but luckily, like you said, we had that place to ourselves, so it was exactly where I left it. But one of the cool things was like going back to ShotScope.
Yeah.
And like seeing like when was like once you download the round right afterwards, you could just quickly go back and say, all right, when did I last strike that club? And, if it said 7th hole, it's like, all right, let me go back to the 7th hole. So it's another like unique feature you can rely on the ShotScope that nobody thinks about.
And we've been using the system for like 2 years now, and the first time we ever thought of it, using it for that.
Yeah,
we're like,
I know,
because I remember we went to the couple. There was a couple holes we went to that we had a suspicion you might have left it on and couldn't find it, and then the panic starts to set in. So we're like, let's look at the ShotScope and see when you used it.
Right.
It ended up being the part of the culprit here was because it was cart path only. So there's a lot of times where we would grab 4 or 5 clubs and walk over, especially in a multiple club wind that we were playing today. You couldn't just say, all right, my ball's like, I see it's on the other side of the fairway, it's 150 out, I'm just going to bring my 8-iron.
Yeah.
It was more so bring a couple of clubs, especially too with winter. Like I said, you didn't know what your lie situation was going to be, if it was going to be super soft, and what the wind was going to be. So each time we were walking across the fairway there, we were bringing a handful of clubs with us, and that's what ultimately happened. You just kind of like left it there in the grass. So
yeah, well, thankfully I got that one back. That's a special one.
Thankfully,
that's my 811.
The other thing I wanted to mention before we dive into our our goals and goal recap was, if you guys have any funny stories like I had today, close to hole-in-one kind of heartbreakers, post them in the Facebook group because I want to hear them. I want to hear those stories. But yeah, like I said, I mean, we're going to keep grinding. We're going to keep playing into the winter as far as we can. Also, we're going to be doing some indoor stuff coming up real soon. In fact, next week, right, Mike, we'll be at District.
We're going to be at District at Chelsea Piers in Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah, we'll be there next week. We'll do a pod from there. We're going to do some indoor work on the simulators. You know, that's always fun. I love the simulators because you can get like 2 rounds in like no time.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun.
It's always fun.
They're great.
They've got some other cool stuff there, so we're going to explore that. We'll also be doing some other indoor stuff in the next couple of weeks. We've got our big 300th episode of the podcast coming up, which we're working on putting together. And I'm sure we'll be indoors working with some coaches and stuff like that as well.
Yes. And dude, speaking of simulators, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Players Club in Paramus. They still have our logo up on their sims, by the way. So we appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, that is so cool.
They're always great to us.
Because actually funny, every once in a while, someone will send us a video on Instagram and be like, look at this, you guys' logo is on this thing. And I'd be like, yeah, because they're down at the Players Club and they left that logo up, which was awesome.
They're a great team there.
Yeah, they were really great. They were incredible hosts for the meetup. I'm sure we'll use them again for the meetup. Maybe, Mike, maybe we should do like maybe a winter meetup. You know,
I love it.
If we can fit into the schedule, I'd love to do that, especially when things when everybody gets a little bit sick of the weather come like January, February. We'll see if we can do that. But we've got a lot of great stuff planned as far as travel too. We're going to be down, like I said, in Florida in January, and we'll try to play as much golf as we can while we're down there. All right, Mike, what do you say we do a word from our sponsors, and then I want to recap our 2019 goals and see which ones we hit and which ones we missed.
Yes, let's do it. So, guys, the competitive golfers at every level know that playing your best means pressing every advantage. The new TS medals let you raise your game with great speed designed into every detail. See what the Titleist Speed Project can add to your swing. Hit the TS lineup against any other option and see how much faster fast can be. Guys, you can find the nearest Titleist fitting opportunity by visiting Titleist.com.
Speaking of which, when we get into goals, one of my goals was getting a little bit more distance. Talk about that TS. Let's just say I hit my goal on that one. We're going to talk about that in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to talk about the ShotScope V2. It's the world's smartest golf watch, and it is going to be a big part of what we talk about in a moment because it tracks all of our stats while we're out there playing, and then we can use that information to compare our goals in this case. So things like that we're going to talk about, like fairways hit, greens and regulation, all that stuff is something that would be a real pain to track manually. It's all done hands off. ShotScope, it has over 40,000 courses mapped. They've got that great stat tracking technology. Everything you do happens in the background. You wear this watch, right? You've got some tags that go on your clubs, and it's just tracking your shots as you go. Also on the watch, you've got laser-like GPS, so you've got the distances to your front, back, middle, all of your hazards. We're using them every time we're out there. If you watch our videos, and you often see us check our watch and say, you know, we're not checking the time. We're not trying to do a pace of play thing out there. No, we're checking the GPS. It's right there. So you get all the data of your golf game right at your fingertips, and you can get yourself a ShotScope V2 by visiting shotscope.com/Golficity. If you use that link, or if you use our coupon code, which is V2 Golficity, you will always make sure you get the best deal they have going. And speaking of deals, the deal they have right now is incredibly hot. They're doing a holiday deal. They're calling it their festive offer. It's only $139. We have never seen it go this low. So really cool stuff. And we'll talk more about deals in a moment, Mike. We forgot to mention our Black Friday deals, but I don't think they could possibly go lower. They're going to be running this deal throughout the holidays, so make sure you guys check that out. Of course, also we want to thank FootJoy. Over the course of a round, players know that they can face a variety of weather conditions, from that early morning frost to the midday sun, sometimes a shower in the afternoon. FootJoy offers performance products that are made specifically for golf that allow you to play comfortably and play well, no matter how the conditions change. From those base layers to the thermal mid layers and those full zip fleece jackets to rain jackets. If you layer properly, as we talked about in the beginning of the show, Mike, you can quickly adapt. You can keep your head in the game. And that's exactly a big thing for me. If you don't have to think about that. Golf is such a mental game. If you don't have to think about being uncomfortable or worrying if it's going to rain, if you just know that your gear has got that handled, it's one more thing you can take off your shoulders and focus on your game. So you can build your own layering system to combat any weather by going to footjoy.com/MEDP. That's make every day playable. Go shop that, footjoy.com/MEDP. And Mike, I will tell you, I did the exact thing today. I built up with base layers. I had my thermal layer on, I had my mid layer, and I had an outer layer, and my body was perfect the whole day. And it did warm up a little bit. I was able just to take one layer off, good to go.
But you know what was great though, and I thought about this on the drive up, all the layers on, like, yeah, you got 3 or 4 layers. Like, how's it going to affect your golf swing? And that's like really the amazing part. Like, it didn't affect it at all. You would think like, oh, I can't get through the ball. I don't know. It surprised me.
Well, you know what? They do literally. You think like apparel, you don't think the word technology, but there's a lot of tech built in, and they are very cognizant of understanding that this is golf apparel and knowing that you have to move. So I've noticed that from everything from like the cuts to the actual material, the lightweight, they're like seem to be obsessed with lightweight, and that's a reason. So it's like, how warm can we keep you, or how dry can we keep you, but also keep it lightweight and movable. So it's good to know that, there's golfers behind this. They know what needs to happen. So it really does work out well. All right. Do you want to kick us off with the goals? Maybe we'll go one for one here. Like, read off one of your goals from 2019.
Sure, because we had a lot of similar ones.
We did.
And then maybe you could bounce a couple off me. Well, first, before we dive into the specific goals, just to kind of recap, equipment-wise, things that have changed this year for both of us was the ball fitting. We did the Titleist ball fitting. That's where correct. You discovered you were a Pro V1 guy, and I was a Pro V1X, and then from that point on we stuck with it for the rest of the season. And then we picked up the new irons, and like you just said, we didn't get many rounds yet with them under our belt, but we've definitely hit them on the range. We've hit them for a few rounds, so we feel good with them. So those have been the major changes. I guess, you know what, we'll come back to the one I wanted to start with. I want to go right to the to kind of the game performance stuff, because this is the most interesting here. So my goal, I had something that I called on that episode 252. I called it Mike's Trifecta, where I wanted to hit these 3 specific goals.
Okay.
One was fairways hit. I wanted to get 50%. I was 40% in 2018. Didn't change much for me. I only bumped it up a couple of percentage points to 42, but I still hit 42% this year, according to ShotScope. So I'm happy about that. Second was greens in regulation. I wanted to go pretty big jump here. I mean, I think you wanted to go 40%. I went 18 to 30%. I was 18 the previous year. I said I would love to have 30% GIR this season. I hit 26, so I was darn close. I definitely improved by 8 percentage points. I love that. That means I hit more greens this year by a lot. I love it, and that's definitely led to a lot of the good scores that I've carded this year. The last part of the trifecta was I want to be a better lag putter. And then I went on this whole rant on that episode on how like we're not pros and we shouldn't be like pin seeking on Sunday pin locations. Our goal should be to hit the green, try to lag putt, make par, and walk out of there, especially us 13, 12, 11 handicappers. So that was my big stink there. And I did. I went from a 50% two putter. It was 50% two putts to 60% two putts. I was dropped the 3-putt ratio down dramatically this year, and even my 1-putt ratio went up. So things did get better from the 2-putt distance, those long lag putts. So I was happy overall there.
That is, yeah. And look, again, you got to be happy with improvement, especially over one season, because golf, we talk about this, golf is a game you play for life. If you can think about that, if you can just improve a little bit every year, you're going to be at your target eventually. You just want to keep working on it. But this is also why I think there's a huge benefit to jotting down your goals, because it keeps you aware of them. It keeps you in your mind, and you kind of hold yourself accountable. You'll find that you're finding ways to work on it. A big one for me was my putting, which we'll talk about here in a second. We did the putting lesson with Kevin Sprecher, going way back to, I think, March of this year. And as I talked about with him, when we were at Hudson National, you can see that a little bit in the Hudson National video that we did. I discussed with him how it's taken a lot of time to get used to the new putting stroke, but it's trending in the right direction. I'm starting to sink a lot more putts lately. I'm starting to really see it happen. So the stats we're going to talk about right now are over the whole season, but I would say my trend, especially in the last couple months of the year here, has been even better than what I see over the whole year. So it's going to be a matter of keeping that with that trend. But I had 3 very similar goals. So the first one was I want to hit 50% of fairways. We talked about the PGA Tour average is 75%. Obviously, that's pretty much the highest possible level you can play this game at. I don't expect to do that. Not at my level. I would love to reach that point one day. I don't know if it'll happen, but I want to be realistic, but also set a goal that would push me a little bit. The good news is I reached 43%, which I fell short of my goal. But what that does is it basically tells me I've got room to work for next year and keep chasing that 50%. I knew 50% was a stretch goal, but I wanted to set a stretch that made me a little bit more dedicated to it. But if I hop back to 2018, I had a 37% fairway success rate. So jumping from 37 to 43 is a nice trend in the right direction. Like I said, fell 8%, 7% short of my 50% goal, but again, happy with it. Also, greens and regulation. Again, I set a little bit of a bigger goal for myself there.
You went big there, 40, right?
I wanted 40%.
Yeah.
I've said it before. I said that the number one indicator of scoring success is greens and regulation. You got to get on the green and give yourself those chances to make birdies. So I wanted 40. Again, I set a little bit of a push goal. I was at 23% last year. And this year, 2019, I'm at 26%. So again, seeing improvement, trending in the right direction. However, of all the goals I have here, this is the one I felt most short by. I still don't think 40% is unattainable. I don't think I set a goal that was too far of a reach. I just think that this just shows me that I need to rethink my strategy and put more focus into it. And realistically speaking, if I really hold my feet to the fire, I don't think I put in enough focused practice to improve this area. I think about the areas where I practiced this year. I did want to hit more fairways. I did a lot of driver work on the range. I also did a lot of work, like I said, putting. I've got my putting mat here behind me. I'm working on my stroke at home. I haven't been doing a lot of focus practice on my approach shots. Where I want to change that for next year, we talked about like the guys from Game Like Training and some of the other stuff that I've seen where you're doing more of that pressure range work. I want to do a little bit more of that, trying to work on focused attack targets. So I'm gonna work on that a little bit, moving as we continue to carry into 2020 and hopefully get that going. But again, I think the common theme here, what I'm happy with, is trending in the right direction so far.
Definitely trending in the right direction. And like you just said, you think 40% green regulation is attainable. 100% agree. Quick math, that's 7 per round. It doesn't seem like much.
No. And I think this is when you got to really dive deeper. And if you want to get lost for a while, the thing about ShotScope keeping so many stats is that these are like the big stats. And then you could dive in deeper and deeper. You can actually look at how you missed and where you missed and start to identify, are there common misses that I can kind of go after? Are there other things, like, is there something deeper in the data that I need to find? And I will do a deeper dive into it and take a look at that.
For sure.
But the other thing was the putting. Like I said, this is something that's going to come slowly, but we're going to get there. I said I want to have less than 15% 3 putts during the season. My 3 putts in 2018 were 13%. And in 2019, went to 14%. It went a little bit higher. However, I believe the data is slightly skewed because growing pains. We talked about this before. When I dramatically made changes to my putting stroke with Kevin Sprecher, and it takes some time. What we found is that some of the work we put in was to give me a little bit better speed control. And a lot of times 3 putts, it has to do with the lag. There's a lot of speed control that has to go into that. So I think what was happening was the first 2-3 months of the season, when I was trying to get used to it, it was a little bit of, like I said, a tougher thing. It was a little more of a struggle. Now, because I'm constantly grinding on that stroke, it's feeling more and more comfortable, and the speed control that I wanted is coming now. I'm starting to feel it. So I feel like if I were to look at these stats a little bit over a shorter range, we're going to see that 3 putt is dropping more significantly.
Well, this is the first full season that you've played your putter. Didn't you cut it an inch or so at the end of 2018?
Made a lot of changes. Made a lot.
Actually, that was an equipment change. Yeah, it was this year you cut it.
Yes, because it was after that lesson with Kevin Sprecher. We double checked the fitting of our clubs.
Oh, that's right.
And that's when he suggested also trimming it down a little bit.
That's right. John trimmed it at Club Champion. Right. I thought Kevin trimmed it.
I made it both a stroke and equipment change. And
yeah, so you had a lot going on there.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's paying off. And the third thing, again, it's just not to make excuses, but more so just to rationalize the data a little bit. We also did play a lot of very difficult golf courses this year, especially when it came to putting. We're talking about Scotland, right?
The old course,
Kingsbarns, lightning quick, Pound Ridge, lightning quick,
Hudson National.
Yeah. So there was a lot I know there's some 3 putts worked in there where they were just so quick. Even when I felt like I hit a good putt, where it would normally maybe stop 2 feet from the hole, it would run out 5 feet.
Yeah.
And I know that made a difference. But again, we talked about this in earlier episodes. Pushing ourselves makes you a better golfer. We did a lot of things this year. We played some challenging courses. We played some challenging distances. We played Pound Ridge from the tips, things like that. And we learn and we grow from it. So it may have hurt my stats a little bit, but it does help. Let me do one more and then I'm going to throw it right back to you because this one I'm particularly proud of. And it may be funny. I may have had to go to Scotland to make this happen, but I said, I just want to hit, one of my goals was I want to hit one 300 plus yard drive. My long drive in 2018 was 294 and I did it. I actually had a few over 300 this year. And of course in Scotland where you got a little wind and run out, I hit one 319. So that's great. It's kind of like a vanity stat.
Yeah, absolutely. But is that happen to be the old course when you drove the green?
I don't know if that was that one. Let me see.
Okay.
Can you click into it? I think you can.
I think you might be able to click into it.
But one other thing I have it here on my screen, I think this is more important. This is a more telling stat. And like you talked about before, like the TS has been so great for me. Because we got fit for the TS halfway through last season, right?
Right.
Okay. So last season, my average drive was 253. That was my average.
Yeah, it was more towards the end of the season, by the way. But yes,
right. So that has the other driver, mixed in and things like that. Here, 2019, I increased that to 261 was my average drive. So, and
in that episode when we were setting these goals, I was talking about your distance off the tee growing and how it's going to dramatically affect your game. For the better this year. Yeah. And I've seen that.
It really
That's one of the things that you haven't mentioned yet that, you're talking about all these stats of hitting the fairway, hitting the greens. I've seen your distance pop off the tee. There's the one thing I've noticed just from being there with you for about 70 rounds this year.
It truly has. And guess what? Yeah. That was not, that longest drive was not that drive. It was in St. Andrews, however. I'm looking at it now.
Okay.
319.2 yards, 9.49 yards left of center, but in the fairway. It was the 18th hole at St. Andrews Jubilee course. I stacked that one, and there was a little bit of wind, which helped. But I had another one here. Believe it or not, earlier in the season, this was back in April when we played Skyway. I had a 300-yard drive, 300 on the button, 24.0.
Oh, I remember that was the one over the bridge.
How do you remember these things?
That's ridiculous.
But you're right. It was the 8th hole, 24.3 yards right of center. But
you almost hit New York City Like that's where you were aiming. It was
Yes.
perfect.
Yep.
I remember that shot.
I got
And
a
by the
couple
way, I
of
just
290s here. Ballyowen,
yep.
Balcony. A lot of them were over there in St. Andrews. St. Andrews, Fairmont. St. Andrews was
I just
the
checked
place
back
for me.
the win that day on Jubilee 18th. It was 120 mile per hour at our back. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not going to discount your
Hey,
drive.
I had a 311-yard drive at Kings Barnes too. Gotta love them to win when it's with you, don't you?
Absolutely, man.
All right,
When it's against you, it's no good.
What else you got for your goals?
We both talked about working out and staying in shape, and this is an important one because we started working with Kevin in 2018 on being more flexible and rotating through the ball. And one of the things that I wanted to set like a mini goal with myself was to rotate through the ball more and hit less slices. I'm not even going to call them cuts. I'll just call them slices and miss hits right. And I wanted to get hips through the ball and hit more of a draw flight and just stay in shape, work out throughout the whole year. So I guess splitting those in two. Number one, yes, I did reach that goal. I have worked out consistently the entire year. Even now, Frank, like tonight, like I was exhausted. I got home from that round. I was just dead. And my wife says to me, she's like, "You going to go to the gym tonight?" Because I usually like to go. And I'm like, I don't really want to, but like, I just want to push through and I want to keep this body flexible because if I don't do it, that's when stuff's going to happen. And I forced myself and I went, and I'm just going to like push through to do that because it's a sport, man. And if we want to be good at it, we got to stay in shape. And I think I did a good job this year with trying to do that. I mean, it was tough, but I did it. And I got the draw. You see it. I'm hitting a draw now. I'm getting the hips. I'm rotating better. And I think it's, coming from that consistent workout. So I'm happy that I hit that goal this year.
There you go. That's a terrific one. I had a similar type of goal, but I wouldn't say similar because you definitely work out a lot more than I do. I wanted to work out at least 2 times per week. I've started that. There's definitely been some weeks where I've failed that. I also have been struggling, unfortunately, through yet another back injury. However, I was working with a physical therapist, and he has given me a couple of specific workouts that he wants me to do every day, kind of like low impact, but just working on, as you said, a lot of this stuff having to do with rotation. I'm learning more and more how much of it has to do with lower body. So we're working on really opening up the hips, loosening the upper leg and that type of things. And it's really helping. I did those exercises before we went out there today. I was able to turn a lot better than I was just a week ago when we played Packanack, which unfortunately was probably my low point in my back this year. It was a bit of a disaster. I was really not able to swing, but it happens. Sometimes it flares up. It's just a matter of constantly working on it. Here, I got another good one for you. I set a goal of I wanted to earn at least 50 shot scope medals in 2019, right? Let me just see what we had. Last year, 2018, I had 66 medals that I unlocked. Do you want to take a guess at how many medals I unlocked in 2019? Because I'll tell you, I blew that out of the water.
I'm going to say 135.
Very close. 122 medals.
Wow.
So that one is one to be proud of. 2,890 shot scope points, which is pretty great.
This is 2019. I'm looking at. So how many points?
I just clicked away from it. I think it's 2,890, something like that.
Yeah, you smoked me, man. Great. That's great. I love looking at that. That's really cool. Medals unlock 102 and then points 2150. And I'm looking at them all. Oh, so world, play in the United Kingdom, play in 2 countries.
Yeah,
awesome.
Those help.
That's great.
Those definitely help.
Those are great.
Speaking of which, by the way, if you want to compare, if anybody out there who wants to compare themselves to everybody else in the Golficity army, we have the Golficity leaderboard on ShotScope, which, by the way, is up to 286 people who are participating in the Golficity leaderboard. And
Very
that'll
cool.
kind of show you the medal. So let's see here. If we look on the year, what place? Oh my God. Wait, hold on. That's not the Golficity leaderboard. I'm currently in 45th place.
Not too bad, Frank.
Not too bad.
See me up there, though?
I see Gavin. I see you, Gavin.
I have less points than you, so I must be down.
Gavin's up in
Gavin's
7th, and Jen is in 8th.
That's great. It's really cool.
Yeah, but I'd have to go through the whole list to find you.
No, don't worry about me.
So that was a really good one. And then another goal we had was just playing more. I had a goal to play over 30 rounds. I don't know the total count. I got to look back and through them. But I'll tell you right now, we definitely blew that out of the water. We played more than 30 rounds this year.
We definitely played more than 30. That's 100%. And my fun goal was I wanted to have 3 eagles on the season. And I've had a lot of eagle opportunities. You know, I even remember the 10th hole at London Links when I outdrove Gavin. I love bragging about that. And then I put my 5-iron to like 6 feet on a par 5, and I missed it. That was on the video. We've had so many opportunities, driving greens at the old course, putting for eagle. Oh, man, I must have had a dozen, if not more, opportunities for it, but I blew it. I was supposed to get 3. I thought it was just be a fun goal, but maybe next.
It is a fun goal. I mean, 3 is pretty good. You can't all be like Gavin, who almost had 3 on the front 9 at Kings.
3, unbelievable.
that was something. That was a display of golf, unlike I can remember ever seeing firsthand.
Right.
I mean, he literally had 2 eagles, I think, in the first 6 holes, and then he had a one that lipped out on the 9th hole for a possible other eagle. But I mean, when you've got that much distance to work with, he generates a lot of power, man.
Sure does.
But I had my couple of goes at these eagles this year too. Unfortunately, I just didn't convert them either. I think all of my eagle putts were probably 10 feet plus. I had an eagle putt at St. Andrews, the old course, when I drove that green. I had an eagle putt recently at, where was that? Was that Rivervale that we did that?
Yes, you did, off the back of the green.
Right, and then we have that on the video.
Like in short.
In short, I mean, whatever. Knock it on the door. The Eagle's going to come, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you almost had one today.
When was your last? Yeah, that would be your last. Was that at Ferry Point?
Ferry Point, like 190-yard hole out on a par 4. Just one of those blind shots you get lucky with, trickled into the hole.
Just a little more than a year ago, right?
Yeah, I only had 2 eagles in my life, and I got both. I got footage, not of them going. Well, one of them going in because I putted it in because I drove it to like 18 inches on a par 4. It's like the luckiest shot of my life. Mm-hmm. And then I got the other one at Ferry Point, but none since then.
It's coming. Don't worry. Still got time. All right. So those are our goal recap for 2019. I know a lot of you out there had posted your goals because we had asked during that episode to post your goals in the Facebook group, or send them to us, message them to us, or however you want to let us know. But we had talked about that. So time to look back. You know, I know a lot of you are still playing. There's still a couple weeks left in 2019 to still hit some of those goals or whatever it may be. But what's your progress? Let us know. Post it in the Facebook group. I'd love to hear it. And I love to see, like I said, that progress. You don't always have to hit the goals. I think the more important thing is knowing that you set the goal, you set a target for yourself, and the fact that if you've improved. That's what I said. I'm happy with in all areas except for, with that 3 putting, which I'm still working on. In all areas, I got better than last year. And that speaks a lot to all the improvements that we've worked on, whether it be physical improvements, working out, whatever, swing improvements like working with Kevin and some of the other instructors we've worked with, equipment improvements. We've done some more fittings and things like that this year. It just shows it is trending in the right direction. And I like to see that. It's very encouraging.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just, add this to the end of it all. It only makes sense, Frank, to repeat the episode that we did last January in a few weeks when the year turns, because I love this exercise. I say we do it again. And guys, if you're not in the Facebook group, the Golf Podcast, just hop in there, because any day or any week, I should say now, Frank, you or me, we're going to go in there and we're going to ask the question to you guys, what are your goals for 2020? And we love reading those on that show, on that episode. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Because goals are important. I mean, you see the pros do it. Justin Thomas, he's always like, famous for putting that out there. And then circling back to see how many of those he's checked up. Even Eddie DeTusa, our own Eddie, he does that on his phone. And he likes to go back. I think he's writing an article, or he did already, about that. So all great stuff there. I love it, Frank. Let's continue to do it.
Hey, speaking of which, I really enjoyed following along Eddie's Duffs to Darts whole goal, thing that he worked through this year. That project was really interesting. You can follow along with that on Golficity. Mm-hmm. But it just shows his goal setting, and then he took that out and he found creative ways to practice. He knows he's busy like a lot of us. He found ways to practice on his lunch break and everything like that. And then he really did see some great improvement from it. So that was great to see. By the way, before we wrap this up, I still have this leaderboard in front of me, the Golficity leaderboard for ShotScope.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. it shows here that actually it shows we played 29 rounds, but that's not, I know that's not a real number because we don't have where we're doing the whole shot scope. What do you call it? Where we're actually submitting the round, because a lot of those, or where you and I are filming, we're kind of going back and whatever it may be. We're doing different things where we don't get to actually log every stat. Right, ball, exactly. Yep. We played those scrambles. We played different formats. So I would say if I had to guess, we probably played something like 35 to 40 rounds this year, which I'm really happy with.
Makes sense.
Being as busy as we are. But I look up this leaderboard. The guy in first, D. Fleming, 131 rounds.
There's a warrior right there.
G. Reed, 138 rounds. Like, wow.
Jeez.
It
must be like south. Does it say where they're located? You can see the flag next to them. Right?
UK. Both of them are in the UK.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's dedication. That's like what? That's going out there and playing 3 times a week almost? Just shy of 3 times a week?
Yeah, they might be looping twice, 36,
Yeah. I tell you what, I'd like to get to the point where I could play at least two rounds a week all year long.
Right. Sure.
Be happy with that. Meanwhile, you got Gavin on here, going back to it again. 16 rounds he's only played on
Guy's
here.
Got to work.
Guy's busy. He's doing a lot of travel.
Gotta work,
but what I'm saying is 16 rounds, and he still puts up 7,820 points.
Because he's money.
He's money.
Guy competes, plays.
Unbelievable.
It's incredible.
But anyway, that's it. That's our show. We talked about, like I said, all those the goals we had set and where we're at now. I'd love to hear from you guys what goals you set and where you're at. And like Mike said, start to think about your 2020 goals. If goal setting is not something you've done before, 2020 is going to be the time to do it. And I'm sure in January we'll talk about some new goals, maybe building off of what we went off of here. So make sure you check that out. You can get all the show notes by going to golficity.com/episode 298 or in the Golficity app. And we'll see everybody again next week.